Maybe the bar came to them.
Yeah, it was probably more likely, yeah.
But it really sounded like they were looking for some answers, and we'll hear from a few of them, including Austin Matthews. But doesn't seem like the media is ready to kind of take their foot off the gas pedal here. And in about 20 minutes, we're going to have Luke Fox from Sportsnet.ca, who wrote an article.
Mm-hmm.
And if you haven't had a chance to read it, Sportsnet.ca, and he absolutely annihilates this organization. Like, I don't know. I mean, I look at Luke, he's got this really apple pie face, and doesn't sound like he'd say,
Apple pie.
No.
What the hell does that mean?
It means like a kind.
Kind.
He is honestly, legitimately one of the nicest men on planet.
Well, what do you think apple pie means?
I don't know.
It means nice. It's Recchi Cunningham.
I've never ever heard that before in my life. That's why I was inquiring.
Apple pie is really nice and friendly and warm.
It's wholesome.
It's wholesome. And he absolutely tears a strip off the Leafs. Basically called it, I don't know, House of Cards. What's his first line? If you build a house with faulty materials, it will eventually come crumbling down in shambles.
Here's the thing, though. This is the best defense for all writers everywhere, is if you're Luke, you say, okay, point to the untruth. Is there one? No? Then I didn't say anything scathing. I wrote the truth.
I just called him apple pie. I wouldn't call him apple pie if I thought he was full of crap.
Good point.
So,
God, boys.
Well, are you okay back there?
Sammy, you're having a tough time over all this.
Sammy, snap out of it.
This fan base is in disarray. This fan base is in complete and utter disarray.
Like, you've got, I don't know, 100 media people that have potential to get to the players today. Like, it's crazy how many people are out there, either, most of them probably swinging hard at the players, at the organization.
That's not been typical here, I don't think.
It's not typical. It's been around forever. But while you have some markets, including, say, the New York Rangers, where I played for 3 years, where, okay, it's the New York Rangers. It's a big stage.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also bigger stage for 5 or 6 professional teams.
Yeah.
You've lived it.
Yep.
You've seen it there. And there might be 2 or 3 very influential media types.
Mm-hmm.
Here, what do you have? 30, 40, 50?
Yeah.
Like, there's a ton of people that if they've had their full of you or the way that you run a team, they're coming at you really hard here, and it can be overwhelming.
Yeah, Raycroft hit it on the head yesterday. It's not so much that any one person or any one outlet is a lot. It's that the relentlessness of it all, the sheer volume of people asking questions can be challenging, which makes it seem like, I don't know, the media is worse. It's just a lot of people, that's all.
It's a ton. And everybody gets a chance to outdo somebody else. Like, at the end of the day, they are fighting for eyeballs. They're fighting for clicks. They're fighting for, what can I say that maybe will be different from the 50 other odd people that are writing
There
this.
is great incentive to zag if you can, while everyone's zigging. If you can find an avenue I get that. So people try everything.
I think Luke found a pretty good way to zag today.
I don't know, Luke zigged right down the middle of Main Street, if you ask me.
Yeah, listen, I think a lot of people are taking rightful shots at the moment. Like a guy that I read an article today from Down Goes Brown, or Sean McIndoe, who has been a Leaf fan favorite for a long time. Like, I've been reading this guy since I was in college, since in my early 20s. Like, I've always found this guy very funny. He wrote an article today. He's always been a Leaf fan. And to me, this is the best sort of summation that I've heard. I'll read this little piece here for you guys, and we can talk about it. So, say what you want about this Leafs team. They damn sure have an identity. Oh, and it's not the one they want. But they have it all the same, and they don't seem to have much interest in shaking it. Their identity is failure. It's not for a lack of talent, but somehow in spite of it. A collection of stars who win at the bargaining table when it's contract time, but lose on the ice as soon as it matters. How do you root for that? Do you even bother?
Oh.
And listen, I like not to get too deep into this, but a barometer of Leaf fandom is pretty good as a hockey dressing room. And I went to hockey last night, and obviously the Leafs were a pretty hot conversation. And I have a lot of guys on my team that are diehard Leaf fans who watch every game. We talk about it I've been playing with the same guys for almost 10 years. These guys said they can barely even watch the games. They have this disdain towards the team.
But they're the same people that 5 minutes ago absolutely loved watching it and spoke of Austin as being the greatest Leaf ever. And some may have even predicted them winning a Stanley Cup this year.
Who would do that?
More people watched our show yesterday than anything we've ever done.
And I just speak of the experience that I've had as a player here and then being in the media for 22 years. And what gets the players the most, I think, isn't just individual comments like this, but it just seems to be the pile-on that follows. It's like that mob mentality where it's just green-lighted. And, I don't read a lot of this, Sean, in The Athletic, but, I mean, it's written well, and you get what he's coming from. But to me, writing it at this moment is fairly easy. It's easy. What isn't easy is calling out these faults at the beginning of the season. That to me is like, now you're telling me something that you see that others don't see.
But he's been writing this throughout that. Like,
has he? Okay, yeah. You tell me if
he's got a good temperature on Leafs Nation for sure. I get your point though.
If he spoke that I'm not buying the 115 point crap and their defense is still 1 or 2 DOA, and if that was consistent for him, then good on him. Then he's been on to something. But
right,
my point isn't on Sean directly. It's just an overall insight of saying that the pile-on in this city gets you in any era since they won last won the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
And it's easy now to go after them.
I just feel so like to triangulate what we're all talking about is this Leafs team likable? That's the question of the day to me. And that's what Sean wrote about, is that he didn't find it particularly fun or enjoyable. And Sammy, you're saying your hockey buddies aren't watching and aren't as interested in this group for what reason?
Right now, this group, this is not an enjoyable hockey team to watch.
It hasn't been an enjoyable 2.5, 3 weeks. It hasn't been an enjoyable start to the season. But you can't go from cheering an Austin Matthews to a 60-goal season and records, and where does he stack amongst the all-time great to now all of a sudden we hate you? Really? Seriously?
I know what you're saying, Kipper, but it's just the failures and failures and failures, and coming into a season after another first-round failure and hoping that it's going to look different and hope that they're going to learn from something and having it look exactly the same, except worse. Like, I don't think, if you talk about the start of last season, it didn't look as bad as it's looked through this stretch.
I'm reading the beginning of Sean's article.
Do you want me to read it?
And I think this is the most fair thing that yeah, you go ahead, read it.
This version of the Leafs isn't a bad team. It's a good team that looks bad, awful even, way too often, and scared and hesitant and lost. And then when the game's over, they look confused and thin-skinned and pouty. The post-game media scrums are about the only time this team's stars seem to want to be defensive.
The first 2 lines, he's right. That we all believe that this is a better version team that's just playing really poorly now, and that their stars will get going. And when it's all said and done, will
Sam's having a tough time.
Will it be a scenario where Edmonton, no matter how well Connor or Leon Draisaitl play and carry the team, that it still won't be enough? That could be the case with Marner and Matthews, but they aren't this bad. And I think Sean nailed it.
So I'll just give a little love to my, my boy Ian Cass, a buddy of mine who's a diehard Leafs fan. I asked him what's his take on this. He's been with the Leafs all the way along, all these, last however many years, 30 years. He says, I do like this team. It's the first era, with elite players that are generally likable, as well as a true feeling they should be able to win. Everything he says after that is about how it's the expectations that this team was supposed to win. And you talk about the media. When you get these superstars, it gets built up with such loud volume. Everyone believed that a title was coming. And so to me, it's not about a group of unlikable players, but it's about a expectation everyone had. And we've talked a lot about expectations lately and falling short of it and coming to this realization that it may not happen for this group when it once seemed inevitable. That's crushing.
100%. And that's exactly it. Like I talked about where the Sabres are at in their trajectory, and you're talking about that. It feels like these guys, but you feels like you're on the way down with nothing. And I know Marner's still young. I know Matthew's still young. I know Nylander's still young. I know these guys are still young. But there's no guarantee they're going to be here for past.
And there's
years.
No guarantee that the Buffalo Sabres with Tage Thompson today will look like a great team in 2 years.
But I'm just talking about where they're at in terms of their fans cheering for it.
Where they're at.
They're just on the way up as opposed to what seems to be on the way down.
Where they're at is what, 4-4-2. I mean, if we're sitting here in 10 days or 2 weeks and the needle hasn't moved, I think it's
6-6-3.
I think it's, again, I don't want to get caught up in, are they 500, one game above 500, or even one game below 500? If the optics of what we see on the ice remains consistent to the first 10 games, then a lot of this stuff that I'm hearing will carry a lot more weight than it would today, for me anyways.
Yeah.
That's all. I just think it's still too early to start burying people in this organization.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's easy to see how this gets turned around and they start winning.
It's not that early.
Okay. Well, it's not that early. People are saying it's years, right?
It is years, right? That's the thing.
Well, that's
why.
But here's what I'm seeing in
Then-
my Twitter feed that's driving me crazy. I'm seeing people go.
You can't change history, though.
No, but I'm seeing people go like at least the Kuhlman and Grabowski teams. They would be tough, and or they would push back, and at least these teams and going through this
tough enough to play this game.
Going through these lists of teams that never really felt good enough to win a championship. And that's the context in which this is also different, is that this team should be good enough and doesn't seem to have found, I don't know, that identity, that something. It's just like, I think it hurts more because it's so close to something that should be and still could be great. But you're right, Sam. It feels like you're trying to hold water, like it's just slipping through your fingers here.
Yeah, and that may be the case, but for me, it's I'll wait another 10 days, 2 weeks, and especially when I see what's on tap for the next 5 games, and they are challenging, and they are tough, and you are going to see the Boston Bruins, who are the best team so far to get out of the gate. Marchand is healthy now; he's back in there.
Carolina's the next best team.
Bergeron looks as good as he's ever been. Pasternak, oh my God, this guy's playing for an $11 million contract. Like, if that isn't the ultimate test Saturday night to see where your, as Morgan Riley said, character is, then nothing will challenge you.
Top 3 teams in the league by points right now are Boston, Vegas, Carolina, and by points percentage.
And
that's
their next 3 after
Philly. Boston, Vegas, Carolina.
Yeah.
Spicy.
Yeah. And so, if you look at the way I don't want to be so negative, but it just doesn't look like a contending team.
I'm trying to
the
pull you
roster
back
today,
off the
lineup is
the ledge here.
Well, listen,
isn't that strange?
A little bit.
It's kind of nice, actually.
But Kyper, you look at the bottom 6 of this team.
Concerns, huge concerns.
Well, it's almost to the point I said to you something that I barely meant, but it felt like it had a kernel of truth. It's like, is Sheldon trying to embarrass Kyle? Like just throwing the most haphazard bottom 6 lines together What are they today? It's read me the bottom six.
So the third line or whatever, third or fourth line, I guess, is interchangeable. But the third line listed here by David Alter on Twitter is Engvall, Holmberg, Yarncroc, Aston Reese, Kampf, Malgin, with Nick Robertson and Obe Kubel on the outside looking in.
Like Aston Reese, Kampf, Malgin. What are you asking that line to do? What scenario do they go over the boards? Goals, defense, what?
And you look at the D pairs, and it doesn't you got Riley with Victor Mete today.
Yikes! I know they're missing 3D though. They're without Muzzin, Liljegren, Bend, or
you're not going to get Liljegren until next week. I think he's not eligible to come back on the cap or the roster till I think Sunday, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay,
the 5th. Maybe.
Does sound like they can spend Muzzin's money at some point. That would be interesting. Like, it seems like Muzzin might be out for the year.
That ship sailed on thinking that you need to protect Muzzin's 5.6.
Right, in case he's
gone.
Is it?
Yes.
Really?
Okay.
Yes.
I was kind of speculating.
They are 100% all in that they've got his money now to go fix it. And if you are in a scenario where Muzzin can come back down the road, you deal with it then.
Yeah. And that, by the way, they'll bring Liljegren in who makes 1.4, or you'll take out someone who makes 750, whether it's Kral or Mete or whoever. So they can't spend all of that, but they'll have 4.5 or whatever to spend.
Yeah. So for me, if they can kind of calm the waters down, and it was a conscious decision not for Brendan Shanahan or Kyle Dubas to see or talk to the media. And I don't necessarily blame them because I said it yesterday. I don't think there's anything that can be positive. If anything, it would probably just stoke the fire.
Yeah, I know, and you made that point very well yesterday. But I do think that there's something to the more that you communicate with someone, the less you have to explain. You know, when you haven't seen a friend in like 2 years and they're like, "What's up?" And you're like, "Well, where do you want to start here? You know, it's been a long time, but you see someone every day and there's not as much to say."
Or you can just answer, "Not much. How are you?"
Well, sure, but I feel like Sheldon.
And that's it. It's over.
Well,
now I'm talking about you for the next 20 minutes.
I feel like if Kyle would make himself more available, every time he came out, it wouldn't be like, you know, the meme with the swords drawn from Frozen or whatever it is. Like, it wouldn't be like that every time he spoke. Like, there'd be a couple of shivs out. But right now, when he speaks, it's like, everyone tune in. Like, don't say anything wrong or we're going to bury you.
It's got to be incredibly, like, they have to spend a lot of money on training these guys to talk to the media. Because
I don't think they do.
They have to.
No, I don't get that sense at all.
No.
They spend millions everywhere, but I'm not sure what goes into the day-to-day of prepping these guys to talk to the media and what kind of message that you want to portray.
They talk so much, and we play clips on here. We talk about every word they say.
What do you think he meant by that?
I would be spending so much money on PR.
For the past 48 hours, there's been a bit of a swale on Mitch Marner and Sheldon. If there's
tension
and the benching or the perception that Mitch marched into his office a week ago and said, "I didn't like the elite comment," and all of that. And for me, there's nothing there.
No.
It's almost as if it was kind of fabricated a little bit through a media buildup, and we said it last week. When Sheldon turns around and backtracks, it actually put Mitch and maybe a few other guys in that kind of awkward position to look like I'm carrying way more power than I really have.
Yeah.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Mitch Marner addressed the Sheldon talk about if he's if they're playing for his job right now, and Mitch just said no. I mean, that's not the case. We think he's doing an unbelievable job. I mean, kind of puts the end to that, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't, because that is the right thing to say, right? Like, and that's what he should. But I do feel like we're left, because they're never going to say if there is a problem. He's never going to come out and be like, yeah, we're, so.
And for the record, I did say the other day that I believe that Sheldon probably chirped Mitch the other night.
Mm-hmm.
And then he took out his frustration partially on that.
Yeah.
But okay, those are one-offs. I mean, I've sat on benches where I've seen Scott Stevens and the late Brian Murray go at it to the point where he threw a water bottle at Brian Murray.
But I think we'd rather see that. I think I'd rather see them. Who is it? McKinnon and Bednar that are always like F you at each other. Like there's almost like it's a healthier relationship to have that rather than this like simmering. So we're left speculating. Someone like me anyway is like, I don't know. It sure looks like he doesn't seem happy, but like, I don't know. It's almost easier if you just.
It's not that uncommon for important players like that to get challenged every once in a while and then have an outcry. I just.
I don't know if we have. Do we have Luke or not? Because he wrote, we do. May I lead into this, Kyper?
Oh, my goodness. I'd love that.
Hi, Luke. Thanks for joining us today. How are you?
I'm doing fine. A little jet lagged, but I'm pretty good. How are you guys?
Well, you're not jet lagged enough to write like how would you describe it, JB? His article.
I think it was
scathing.
No. I think it
No?
it was full of truths.
Okay.
It was full of truths, and we're happy to have you on today. Thank you for joining us. The one thing I wanted to ask you before we turn back to the previous column was just on your recent one about this sort of blow up and the comparison to Kucherov and Tampa Bay. Can you explain kind of what happened there before they found their way through?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys remember that game, but in December of 2019, so John Cooper's coming off a really embarrassing sweep at the hands of the bottom-seeded Columbus Blue Jackets, and Tampa Bay's they're winning 3-1 to the Ottawa Senators, who are rebuilding. Kucherov actually already has a goal in that game. Soft back check, Connor Brown scores. Giveaway in his in the O zone, trying to make a skill play, goes the other way. Tie game, Senators. Cooper sits Kucherov at the end of the second period, doesn't even play him in the third, just benches the guy. Remember, at that time, Kucherov is the reigning Hart champion. Tampa Bay hasn't broken through yet. They haven't won a Stanley Cup. They're this team that filled with skill, filled with promise, that hasn't got it done. The coach is feeling heat because he just got swept by a low-ranked team the previous spring. Kucherov responds by getting 4 points in his next 3 games, goes on and just absolutely dominates in the bubble. Better than a point per game in the pandemic bubble, and Tampa wins its first cup with that core. The reason I led my article with that is it's possible to bench a star player and for things to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
John Cooper and Steven Stamkos have butted heads in the past. I'm sure you guys remember Jared Bednar and Nathan McKinnon going at it, like in front of the cameras on the bench. They won a cup. I'm just saying these things can be overcome. It's not that huge of a deal. The difference for me, though, was that what happened with Keefe and Marner is it was one shift. And it feels like a half measure. It felt like the benching version of calling out elite players and then apologizing for calling out elite players. It just felt like if you're going to do it, I think you should follow through and bench him for the rest of the game, or don't do it at all.
The only issue I have with that is if it really falls on a merit, and I'm Mitch Marner, and I've seen mistakes after mistakes from Austin Matthews to start the season. If I've seen some bad decisions with a Morgan Riley, okay, can we not also share in that? Can we also Is Mitch by far the worst out of all of them? Like, can we share this feeling that if I can be benched, let's make sure that we're benching the right person at the right time for the right reason? Like, where did Matthews have any start to this season that would warrant a benching in your mind? And if not, if he did, would they have the guts to do it?
I don't know if he'd have the guts to do it, and I think a lot of that has to do with this team's decisions being partially informed by the looming cloud that we all know is Matthews can be re-signed on July 1. I mean, I think that's partially why, through this sluggish offensive start, the coach has not broken up Matthews and Marner because they like playing together. He took bunting away from Matthews for like half a game. Otherwise, that line has been essentially the only one that's been untouched. He's juggled every deep pair. He's juggled every other line. But essentially, that line is stuck together and through a struggle. And this is a coach willing to tweak and experiment. And so you have to wonder if part of the reason why he's doing that is because he wants to keep Matthews happy. There was a really soft back check in my mind in the San Jose game by Austin Matthews. He could have sent a message then. But for context, what I will say is going into that Anaheim game, it was very tense. Morgan Riley prefaced that game by saying that calling it basically a test of their character or a chance to show their character by going out and winning. And every guy who stepped up and talked to us going into the game were on the same page. They said the same thing. We're going to play very simple. We're not going to take chances. We're going to get pucks to the net. We're going to get an ugly win to get some momentum and get on a plane and get out of here. And they had a lead. They had that game wrapped up. And then a little bit of extra stick handling. That I think that's why he did it.
Okay. And you're talking about Marner's extra bit of stick handling. On a guy that you had play almost 25 minutes 24 hours ago and then 27 earlier in the week. And you can have your sleep doctors tell you that you can't travel after the game. You can have your sleep doctors or your sports science to tell you that Samsonov can't play back-to-back games, but you can go to Marner, squeeze him until there's not a drop out of him, and have him 24 hours after he's played 25 minutes to come back and squeeze him some more, and he turns the puck over, and now I'm going to bench him and use you as an example. Does anyone see anything wrong with that other than me?
I just don't understand why it can't be Mitch. I don't understand why it can't be him. Like, you want it to be Morgan Riley. Well, why can't it be Mitch? Why, if they're going to set an example with one of the older...
He's not the first guy I would go to. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay? He's just, again, you're overplaying him. He is the constant guy that when you start talking about 25, 27 minutes, it's Mitch.
Yeah.
You've asked him to kill every penalty. You've asked him to score a goal shorthanded. There's nothing left of the kid, and you're 10 games in, and then he turns the puck over, and then you shit on him. Well, like, what is that?
So, Luke, do you think that relationship is that fractured now?
No, I wouldn't go to that extent. I think you're dealing with two men that, in their own way, are on tilt right now. Sheldon Keefe has tried, I'm sure he's tried stuff behind closed doors. He has tried from the very first game at the Bell Center, calling out the team, saying that's not good enough. He's tried, the gentle approach now, saying, there was stuff in that game to build on. He's tried every line combination almost under the sun. Like today, they called up Pontus Holmberg because he's trying to find another guy who can actually play center after he's cycled through Kerfoot and Yarncroke and Nylander. Like he is just kind of throwing everything at the wall. So I think he tried something he's never done before, and that's benching Marner. I think he's getting desperate. And then I think Marner is, he came into this season feeling very good. Him at training camp, he was very light. He was jokey. He was happy. It was very refreshing, and I felt very encouraged for the season he was about to have, because going into the previous training camp after the debacle at the hands of the Canadians, this was a tense kid. He was not giving very great interviews to us reporters, like very short answers. He seemed more relaxed this summer. But then, the wins haven't come. The offense has struggled to get going. and he's feeling the weight of the world. And part of that, you're right, Kyper, is he's playing the most of any forward in the whole league, and that wasn't the plan. The plan was to have a bottom six that actually reduced the top six's minutes and eased up a little bit on them. And that was part of my argument with my article after the Anaheim game is I don't think Kyle Dubas has built a strong enough defense or a strong enough bottom six, and it's taking a toll on the big guys. And on nights where they don't score, the team doesn't win.
100%. You nailed it.
Yeah, and that seems to be it's all or nothing, and that's they lose Tavares against Montreal, and it's like, well, our plan was to rely on 4 people. We lost one of them. We can't win. It does feel frustrating. So the tone of that article you wrote after the Anaheim game was pretty direct, and I think I'd say critical in a positive way in the way that I think you touched on a lot of important things. What tone were you going for? What points were you trying to make in the big picture when writing that article?
Well, I mean, it's a lot, right? Because it's been building for years and years. And when Kyle Dubas started this plan, I thought this is going to be a really interesting, grand experiment to see if this is where hockey's going, because the traditional thought is you build from the net out. You find strong defensive players. You invest in a good goalie, and you find, a strong center or two and fill in around the wings. He's basically invested in 5 offensive players, the big 4 forwards and a really dynamic offensive defenseman in Morgan Riley. And then the so-called easy spot, part of the plan is filling in the fringes once you have that elite talent. But there's been the slow trickle of really good role players for various reasons. I mean, Nazem Kadri, they didn't trust him in the playoffs, and Zach Hyman wanted more money. Ilya Mikheyev wanted more money. And it doesn't mean Kyle Dubas is a bad GM. I'm not saying that. I mean, I think he's a really smart guy, and according to his vision, he's done very good things. He's recognized mistakes and made good trades. I like the Nick Recchi for Lyubushkin trade, get something good. But there's been the slow trickle away of some good heart and soul role players, and the new crop that he's brought in isn't doing the trick. I don't see an Andre Kasha, Michael Bunting out of this group. Pierre Engvall, to me, does not look like he's going to make up for Ilya Mikheyev's goals. And the blue line, you're missing Lyubushkin, Jake Muzzin. We don't know when or if he's coming back. And the blue line is one note. You're asking Justin Hall to punch above his weight class and be a top 4 defenseman when I don't think he is. You're asking Sandin and pretty soon Liljegren to be, 3, 4, 5 defensemen, and I don't know if they're quite ready for that. Sandin got roasted on that trip. So I think the blue line's too thin, and I think the bottom six isn't going to provide enough secondary scoring. So it's like very one note. Either that top 6 is feeling it and they're pumping in the goals and you're winning by scoring 4 or 5, or you're losing to some of the worst teams in the league, which is what I've seen. And I think a lot of fans have seen that as well.
Well, and he's not the only general manager that's looking for that diamond in the rough, and he got very fortunate, or he had a keen eye, one of the two, on Bunting ending up with 60 points last season. But how often can you go to the Dollarama and find a gem?
Well, exactly, and that is explicitly the plan. And there's another element to that too is, like Zach Hyman loved being a Maple Leaf. I don't know if Obey Cabell feels the same way, or Aston Reese or Yarncroke. They're here and they're good on paper, and I just don't know if they're the guys. That they, and maybe I'm wrong. Hey, maybe the people are going to throw that article back on me and say this was the roster, but it just doesn't feel like that at this point. And I don't know if there's enough of a supporting cast that's willing to fight for that logo right now.
I was just going to say, though, I was just going to ask him a big picture.
No, go for it.
Just in terms of reading your article, I mean, we are just 10 games here, but there's a sense I got out of you on 10 games is you've bailed on this roster. That's it. You're washing your hands until they bring me something different. And you mentioned it. Maybe their shooting percentage will improve, or their high end skill will find more nets. But hey, this ain't going anywhere. Is that fair to say out of your article?
Anywhere deep. I would be surprised unless they make some changes that they go on a deep run. Can they make the playoffs? Absolutely. I mean, are they going to turn it around? Austin Matthews isn't going to shoot at this rate. Mitch Marner is going to produce at a higher rate. Things will turn around. And the other thing we haven't talked about is the goaltending. I just really think that after you've been through a year of betting on an injury-prone goalie and seeing him fall down due to injury, I found it a very curious and risky move to once again bet on an injury-prone goalie. And guess what? He gets injured the morning skate of his second start. Matt Murray's back on the ice, trying to work his way back today. So that's a positive. Yeah. But 10 games in, you've started an AHL goalie 3 times. You've lost all those games. I'm really starting to question this roster's depth at every position.
You're right.
I think it's fair.
You go from one injury-prone goalie last year to another, but you know who made that decision?
Dubas?
No. Well, yeah, but analytics.
Yeah.
That's an analytics signing.
Yeah. The best available player based on money puck. I think right now we struggle. Like publicly, there's nothing great on goaltending. Next level stuff, I don't know. Maybe there's some internal stuff. But boy, it sure did not pan out so far. It does feel like when Matt Murray comes back too, Luke, like is there any part of anyone in the fan base who's like, okay, now we're off and running? Like it feels scary to put that guy in net given this past couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, and especially the way things went with Mrazek, right? Like, those type of muscles, it's not one of those things where you come back 100%. That you're susceptible to pulling it again. So, the fan base went through it with 3 injuries to Mrazek last season. Mrazek in Chicago, poor guy, is out again with a groin injury. Like, it just keeps mounting. So he has the abductor muscle, and then he also has a concussion history. There's just a lot of risk there. And it feels like there's been more gambles as the Dubas tenure's gone on.
So I guess after this article, there's no real reason for you to write again until either they miss the playoffs or they get knocked out in the first round, right? What are you going to do for the rest of the year?
Oh, there's always stories, Kyper.
There's Pontus Holmberg got called up, Kyper. There's an article right there.
All right, Luke, get a rest.
Okay.
Big win tomorrow.
Talk to the Sportsnet sleep doctor.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us, bud.
Okay, anytime.
All right.
And listen, that guy's exactly what we need when talking about the Leafs.
Listen, hey, man is entitled to his opinion. Everybody is. Everybody.
I think he's voiced a lot of
platform.
Public sentiment.
He's given people a lot to think about, and he's seen enough after 10 games. He's seen enough. I don't know. He could be right. He could be right. He could be.
But here's the thing.
Looking at this team and going, hey, they ain't getting any better than this.
They are going to get better because Matthews and Marner are going to get better. They're going to improve. But who in the bottom 6, as it's presently constituted, is going to get hot?
The guy who's out tomorrow, Robertson.
Like, who are you looking at that's going to, start firing it in the net?
Engvall could still get on a 15-goal pace with, he scores a few in a few games.
I have no doubt. Like, listen, they're not going to be.
He's got no faith in
No,
Engvall.
There's very little faith. This is the tone of the show, though, today, is the faith is gone.
I think they are a playoff team, clearly. I think they will improve. I think they will have a good record. Somewhat. I just don't
They
think.
need to find a way to shore it up. The blue line. If there's one place that Kyle left himself exposed, and that was, and I don't know if you guys remember, but when we first started this show at the beginning of last year,
No, don't remind people that exists.
We went
I would rather, do
We
a lot
went
of bad
hard
things than listen to the start of that
on
show.
the behind the scenes of All or Nothing.
Yeah, we did.
And one of the things that stuck out in my mind when we watched it was Keefe and Kyle, I guess, looking over the depth chart. And Sheldon back then said, what do we do if Muzzin gets hurt?
You play Mete with Riley.
We're well over a year.
Yeah.
And the answer is nothing.
Well, at that time, they also had a goalie who was hurt, and they didn't know when he was going to be available.
They weren't allowed to, they didn't talk to him.
They didn't talk to him. Familiar. They had
Freddie.
Yeah, Matthews. Was it a slow start last year?
Got pissed off because
He said something in the media, and
'Cause they're
Sheldon,
too
after the
bottled
first
up.
game, went to the media or went to Kyle and was like, Matthews is saying stuff in the media we can't be saying. So we're back there. I read an article yesterday, which I think I shared with you. Kevin McGran wrote an article a year ago, like to the day, that was Leafs are under pressure. Mitch Marner's, Mitch Marner was in the headlines for, same stuff. Lead team wasn't winning. So point the finger at one of a couple guys. Groundhog Day.
And if you are supposed to be a top contending team, a top contending President's Trophy team, and you lose your most physical number one shutdown guy, and you don't have anybody close to replacing him, and now you've put all your eggs in one basket on Jordan Ben, that's leaving yourself exposed right now.
Start looking around the league. All right, we got to break.
Okay, we'll take a quick break here. Mark Recchi, 3-time Stanley Cup champion and 8th all-time in games played, will join us after the break. You're watching and listening to Real Kyper and Bourne.
From the City News 680 Traffic Center, I'm Carrie Prunskis.
is Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne. We're back. I teed him up after the break. Mark Recchi will be joining us now. He's got the coach's room, a regular feature during the 2022-23 season that he speaks of the inside look to the game through the eyes of a teacher. Mark Recchi, Phil Housley will take turns providing their insight for NHL.com, if I'm not mistaken. Rex, how are you? Thanks for joining us.
No problem. Great. How you guys doing?
We're doing well, I think, under Leaf Nation. I think at the time,
Yeah, we're okay.
We got to talk. We got to talk our producer off the ledge every once in a while, but other than that, we're okay. So I find it so interesting that one of your discussion pieces is always about the start of a season and how patient you have to be at times to not overreact. You are what this city needs right now, my friend.
Yeah, it's definitely, it takes time sometimes. And, you always want to get off to a great start. But you know what? The players individually want to get off to a great start and teams want to get off to a great start. And, sometimes it just doesn't quite happen. And it's 10 games in, 10 games in. And you just got to stay patient with it right now. And you got to keep your composure. The team, the coaching staff will do a good job keeping their composure and try and get guys going in the right direction. And the players have to start believing in each other.
Just before JB jumps in, quickly over your experience behind the bench, not necessarily as a player, but how many games would you need to really know what you know about your team? And does it vary?
Well, I'd say by Thanksgiving is usually a pretty good indication of where you're going to be at. Number one, that's a pretty good indication. Usually what teams are going to make the playoffs. There's been a few times where there's some teams that have gotten in, but for the most part, it's pretty close to being, set for the most part that I call. A number of years ago when I was coaching. So, I'd say Thanksgiving is a good indication of where, a U.S. Thanksgiving, that is. So where you have a good feel for it.
Mark, right now when people look at this Toronto Maple Leafs team, no one thinks they're under-talented, but, they are underachieving a little bit. So I'm looking at the leadership side of things and wondering what this team can do or what individual players can do to get this team on track, because their leadership doesn't seem like an overly vocal group. John Tavares is not a naturally outspoken type. Matthews, some of these guys that really drive the bus for this team on the ice don't seem like overly vocal guys. So what is it they can do to provide something to jumpstart this team?
Well, you know what? There's lots of factors that they can. You know what? They got to be their best players, and
right.
That goes for any team. They got to be their best players, and they got to lead by example. And there's been a lot of very quiet leaders. You look at Patrice Bergeron, number one. He's a quiet guy. He's not outspoken, but he lets his play dictate, and players follow him. And that's what they got, Matthews and the Marners and the Tavares. That's what they're going to have to do, and they're going to have to grab that team and pull it along and get them going in the right direction. And they have to play within a team structure, but they have to be leading in the effort and the composure and believing in trying to get everybody to believe in each other.
We're talking to Mark Recchi, three-time Stanley Cup champion, who's currently writing for the NHL.com. You also spoke of systems and structure. And I think that's the other thing. I think when we looked at the Toronto Maple Leafs in particular, that they just don't seem like they're a cohesive group, especially when it comes to the transition from pucks from the back end up into their forwards. We also heard from Jimmy Rutherford talking last Saturday on After Hours, Mark, where he's talking about don't and I'm paraphrasing, but don't talk to me about players out of the lineup. Talk to me about a structure that can allow guys to be successful. How much is that coming into play here, especially for a Toronto Maple Leaf team, and how much can that improve? And how far does Sheldon need to go to say what we're doing isn't working? We got to revamp this structure.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched them once this year, so I don't have a lot of background on it, but I do know you got to get the pucks into the offensive players, and you got to get 4-man attack, especially with that team. I mean, last year when we played them, when I was coaching with New Jersey, you know, they were 4-man coming at you all the time. They backed you off all the time, and that's getting it into those good players' hands and get going and all cohesive going up the ice in 4-man structures, and then obviously you're going to have to defend. You have to defend in this league. If you don't, you're not going to be successful. And I think the biggest thing for them is they've got some defensemen that can get it in their hands. So I'd have to watch their games a little closer to see exactly what's happening, how they're getting hemmed in. Maybe it's some little structural thing that Sheldon, I'm sure, will figure out.
It's 2 years running, I believe. Mitch Marner has been named the best right winger in the NHL. I think he's been a first team NHL All-Star. We had some drama here where he got benched for a whole shift. There was also, some sort of comments in the media between coach and their stars. I'm sure you've seen superstars squabble with their coaches before. Can it work when the players are frustrated or don't want to hear it from their coach anymore, or does something have to be rectified with that relationship? I'm not sure what goes on in back door, but I'm sure they talk it out. I mean, I would believe Sheldon and the whole coaching staff is very hands-on in talking to these guys, making sure they work through things. And that's important, more so than ever, is the communication with the players. You have to have that nowadays. And when Nick knows, when we started, they didn't have to talk to us. But now it's a different game, and players are different, and you have to find ways to really connect with them. And sometimes it doesn't happen overnight, and you're going to go through difficult times together. And as long as you stay, strong together, and you both understand and you're on the same page, then you'll eventually get through that.
Oh, I'm sure like Sid and Sullivan in Pittsburgh, they
besties
got
forever.
Best of friends. They never challenged each other, did they?
Yeah, it's awesome, and it's fun to see because they definitely they have an amazing relationship, but there's no question they challenge each other, and that's the great thing about their relationship, and I don't think they'd have it any other way, and they work with each other, they have a mutual respect, which is extremely important, and that's why they when Sid's he's your hardest worker every day in practice and wants to grind and wants to get through it, and guys are tired, and he's saying, let's go, and we got to push through, then that makes a big difference. And that's what the Matthews and the Marners and the Tavares are going to have to do in Toronto.
How much should coaches allow players to have a say and to hear explanations for their decisions? I understand that it's not like it used to be, and I'm sure that while you were in New Jersey, you saw it all the time. Surely there's a level, though, where it's just like, you know what, because that's the decision. Go play hockey, you get paid. How much should guys get to hear?
Well, you know what? It's 50-50. You're in it 50-50 with your players as coaching staff, and that's all you ask. You meet halfway and you work through it together. And so the players definitely deserve to have say, but it's and as the coach does, and if you can get it where you got you're coordinated and you're 50-50, it's not 40-60, it's not 60-40, it's 50-50, and you're working together and you're believing in each other. The good things will come.
So we've seen some early success from coaches in new positions. Jim Montgomery in Boston, Peter DeBoer in Dallas.
Cassidy in Vegas.
Cassidy in Vegas. Tortorella, dare I say it, in Philly. Is this just a lot of it, Mark, on players being on their best behavior early?
Well, there's definitely a grace period for sure. There always is, but these guys are good coaches too. So obviously there always is shelf life in coaches, as we know, but they're good coaches to start off with. So they've got the respect right away, and then it's up to now building that. Like I said, continuing to build that relationship. So they've done a good job, and but time. It's a long season, and there are going to be some tough times they're going to go through, and that's how you see. That's when whether that team is going to be strong together or not.
We've looked at obviously we're Leafs focused here, but core players obviously are a key part. They're not going anywhere. The guys on the outside, a lot of guys are here in 1-year contracts, trying to find their way. How much are they allowed to speak up or grab a guy and ask for more within the team, within the dressing room? How much are those guys able to sort of, I guess, push from within?
Well, it's hard for those guys, but if you have a strong veteran presence or a strong guy that's very well respected in the dressing room, then absolutely he should have some say. And your leadership, your core guys should welcome that and should want that. And I think that's important. It's important, especially for a team like Toronto. You're in a big market. It's it's very demanding, and you got to be all in it together. And if you don't want to hear third or fourth line guys, comments and stuff, then you know what? You're not going to be very successful because they're in it with you, and you don't win without those guys as well. So I think it's important that they embrace those guys and make sure that they feel like they're part of the team, like a big part of the team as well.
Well, one of the issues here is that the depth isn't there that I think a lot of Leaf fans were expecting coming out of the season on their third and fourth lines. And Rex, we knew what for sure what a fourth line would look like when we broke into the league, right? And that's not the case here. In many ways, I know there's some real good bottom six players in the league, but for the most part, it almost seems like a lot of these guys are just interchangeable guys. But how hard do you come back and squeeze your third and fourth lines if they're not producing? And as a coach, how far do you go?
Well, you know what? If they're not producing, they better be playing physical, or they better be doing something that's helping drive the team. Right. Because it is important over the course of 82 games that they have to chip in eventually. But if you're not, you better darn sure make sure you're either physical, you're either doing a heck of a job on the penalty kill, which some of those guys have huge roles usually on a team with, and they're buying in, they're blocking shots, they're doing everything they need to making sure they are trying to make a difference. And if they're not, then you're right. It's just like it's vanilla, and you might as well go find a young guy with some juice and see if he can bring some energy.
How did you find a way to be effective in different roles? Because, you came in as a rookie and all of a sudden was it 23 years later you're still in the NHL? Like, surely you've played all the different spots on a team. How did you manage that?
100 points year and year.
No big deal.
Kevin Stevens and Mario. You guys gave us Washington Capitals and Rangers nightmares, buddy.
Yeah, it didn't help. It didn't hurt when you had the 66 in the middle either.
Oh my gosh.
So it was, just to play those different roles, you just, like, as I got older, obviously I realized it wasn't what I was. And I was a bigger piece when I was younger. And then as you grow older, you're just a piece. But I just kept on doing what I do. And I knew that I had to make a difference. Like, there was games that, if I didn't feel I had it, I would try and be physical and try and go out there and get a couple big hits. If we needed a spark, I'd try and do that, even into my 40s. I just felt that that's what, hey, I was there for, and I need to help these guys and help them understand that that's what it is. And, if I'm not producing and, which I wasn't as much when I got older, then I had to find ways to do other things and spark the team and help the team.
Hey, Rex, we really appreciate you coming on the show, and we want to do it again real soon, okay?
Yeah, anytime, guys. Appreciate it. Great talking to you.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Mark Recchi is doing a great job. Him and Phil Housley are providing some insight on NHL.com. Look for it.
Sammy and I were pulling up Recchi's career, and he was like, how many years did he play or whatever? I was like, I think he played like 15 seasons. He's like, he started in.
I'm in Hershey in the American Hockey League, and we're going into like Baltimore, I think, or Wilkes-Barre, and you got these Western Canadian guys like Mark Recchi and another one, Kevin Stevens and Phil Bourque, and we're out there, and they're just like zip, zip, zip. They're like on fire.
Yeah, I believe that.
And it was like, These guys are good.
It's just how smart do you have to be, and that's what Sam and I talked about before too, is thinking about him with the Bruins as a bottom six guy, finding ways to be effective for a team. What are you saying? He played every game in that Stanley Cup run.
So he's got really impressive playoff numbers, Recchi. I mean, all of his numbers are really impressive. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he's played 1,652 games in the NHL. He scored 577 goals. He's pretty good. But in the playoffs, he has 61 playoff goals in 189 games in his career playing in the playoffs. And in his last year, he played 25 playoff games, played every game in their run, and he scored 5 goals. He had 14 points.
And to me, winning it with 3 different teams over big chunks of time, like that speaks to your value, and you're a winner.
Forgot to
He's
mention
a winner.
John Cullen.
Oh, he was a great player. I loved him.
Coming through the system.
He was
in
at
Pittsburgh,
Hartford,
too.
you maybe?
Oh yeah,
Yeah. He was a great player.
He was a really talented guy and fun.
Yeah.
Just the great group of guys. I'm not. You are. We're married as watchers now to the Leafs bottom 6. They're not changing them. There's nothing to save
we're not.
them.
We're not married. They can be changed and fixed.
Where? You maybe one guy.
Yeah.
Maybe
I don't know.
one
I
can
think,
come in, come out.
What did Vancouver just do? They grabbed 3 fringe guys?
You're not going to change 4 guys now. You're not going to. You're married to Aston Reese.
Well, let me ask you, are you married to Abed Kubel?
Maybe you can get rid of one, but you can't get rid of 3 or 4. And Yarncroc, last time I checked, 4-year deal, $8 million.
I like Yarncroc just fine.
But he's bottom 6.
He is, for sure. And he's a
and
fine
he needs
bottom
to produce,
6 guy.
and he needs to get going.
Yeah, he's shot 3 in the net, I think, or something this year. He'll shoot it in 15 times.
To me, if you're looking at that.
You're not fixing that. That's my point right now. It is what it is. They should be okay. Majority of them all look the same, to be honest with you.
I know,
when I
but
look
this
around
is
the
the
league.
Exactly. No, you think all bottom 6s look the same. Is that what you're getting at?
It's 70% of the
Leafs.
league.
Oh.
70% of the league. Like, you're
yeah,
not.
and then the 30% have the good 30% have the good bottom 6.
Yeah, I know. Like, you'd love a Coleman or a Goudreau.
Well, to
right?
me,
they're not out there.
They have that $5.6 million from Muzzin or whatever they'll have once they bring up Liljegren or however it works. 1 D-man, 1 forward that add up to 5.6 would make a big difference to me. It would make a big difference to the bottom 6 to me. It really would. And it would make a big difference to the decor, adding just a capable body back there. I'm not talking about a superstar, but just not someone you're not playing Crawl and Mete and just add somebody who is good at defense.
Listen,
somebody who
makes Scott Mayfield.
You make it sound like you can go to Amazon.com and go buy
cheap.
something.
Yeah, just go add to cart.
You can't?
No.
You can't fire off a couple texts? Hey, boys, you up?
Just go out there, find a great $2.5 million defenseman, find another 2.7.
It did in Justin Hall once upon a time.
Who's giving those guys away? First of all, if you're lucky enough you got them at that price and they're overachieving,
where's this year's
Kyle
Lyubushkin?
ain't getting them.
Where's this year's Lyubushkin?
I don't know. That's what Kyle's doing.
Yeah, he's looking.
I don't know.
He's looking, but so is
we're working on it. We're working on it.
31 other teams looking for that guy.
By the way, boys, our best bud Lyubushkin healthy in Buffalo last night.
Go get him. Go save him.
He's
2.5
he's
schmil is the exact guy you're asking for.
He's pissed off. Get him back to Toronto. Bring him home.
No, he has some issues.
Are they that good right now, Buffalo?
Bud. I got my.
This guy is more Sabres stock.
I got my LaFontaine jersey on back here, boys. I'm just listening to Rick Jenneret calls. I'm thinking about moving down there, eating wings every day. I'm gonna host Sabres talk.
Shout out Lenovo.
Yeah, I'm all in. Shout out Lenovo. I'm all in.
These guys are
So
good.
let me get this straight.
Scary good.
You just want the pressure-free fan experience.
This is it. He's pining for
He's pining
5 years
for
ago, and it was like, oh, we have hope. This is all fun.
He wants the pressure off of himself.
This is a great
He's
point.
feeling too much pressure right now as a Leaf
when you get good,
fan.
the games get hard. The pressure ramps up. This is the good stuff. You're finally in things that matter.
What would you know about pressure?
I'm taking an absolute beating from other fans.
Because you predicted the Leafs would win the Stanley Cup.
No, I have Habs fans in my life. I have, I just Sens fans. I got fans of different friends.
And also, the last 2 years, your personality's been tied to this job.
They love it. They love it. I went to Buffalo with a couple Habs fans. I didn't hear and I was like, believe me, boys, I hate them way more than you do. There's nothing you can say to me that's going to hurt. But it hurt.
Yeah, it hurts.
We're only 10 games in. You ain't lasting. There's not a chance. They're
Thank
pulling
God
you
we
out
covered
on
the
a
Leafs.
stretcher by March.
No,
At the pace you're going right
This is
now,
probably why the players get to playoffs and they're like, enough.
he ain't making
I'm
it.
done. Give me the tee box. Sammy's not. We're going to have to get him replaced.
Sammy's not making
We
it.
need to develop. Have we drafted and developed any decent producers? Any in the system?
There's not much depth. Looking like the Leafs goalie depth back here.
We got Victor Mete in the wings waiting.
All right. Anywhere else you want to go?
yeah,
Leaf
quick-
Nation?
Yeah, quickly. Leafs are the most profitable fan. They're the most they're worth the
Valuable
most.
franchise.
Yep. 2.7.
They passed the New York Rangers.
Yep.
And what would they
2.7
be
billion.
if they had playoff success? No, I'm not joking. I'm dead serious. If they would have had some gates over the years.
There are people employed with Sportsnet who might as well be gamblers because their fate hinges on the success of the Leafs. If they win a couple of rounds, they look like geniuses. And if they don't, well, they're in big trouble, right? Ratings, gate, success. Need the Leafs to be good. MLSE, Sportsnet.
Well, the good part is
Me and you, bud.
They don't broadcast it like that.
Yeah, no, that's true. That is true.
Pre-game shows on Saturday night, 20 minutes Leafs, 2 minutes everybody else.
Good.
That's the way it should be.
That's right.
Sorry. Most
Yeah.
people care about the Leafs. Actually, I think there's less now, but yeah.
Also,
Boy,
Connor
we need a win
McDavid
tomorrow
assist.
night, guys. Oh, how would a win
Need a
tomorrow
win,
night?
need a
Oh,
win.
my
Please
God.
win.
Okay, let's
Please
take
win.
a quick break. Claude Julien's going to join us after the break.
Mm.
Going to get some thoughts on a lot of things, including the pressure maybe Sheldon's felt and what his experience have been as a head coach
For sure.
when things are not going well. So we'll welcome him after the break. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, back after these messages.
is Real Kyper and Bourne on Sportsnet 590 The Fan.
Waiting on Claude Julien. Where is he in the top 20 winningest coaches in history?
I believe he's up to 15.
You looked.
Sam does his work. I give it a look over. Sometimes. Don't tell him it's not always.
Yeah, I'm interested to get his view on things from afar.
And we have more from Sheldon Keefe to come after we get. All
right, let's welcome in the 15th winningest coach in NHL history. Claude, hope you're well. I assume you're feeling better than, say, half the NHL coaches with a 500 or below record.
No doubt, guys. That's a lot of pressure these days, isn't it? So I know there's a lot of expectations everywhere, and it's getting tougher and tougher to coach in that league.
Yeah, it is. And I can't recall, and I've been around not quite as, maybe we're kind of equal maybe on how long we've been around the pro game, but like 10 games in, people are making some real big decisions on what they think they might have. Have you ever seen it this critical on certain coaches this early to start a season?
Not really, guys. And I'll tell you what, I've said that all along. It seems that, now there's 32 teams in the league. And then obviously there's still only 16 teams making the playoffs. I think that's a lot of pressure to put on a lot of coaches, organizations, players, teams, whatever you may talk about. But, at the same time, in the first round, you got 8 more teams that get eliminated. So basically you're looking at almost 24 out of 32 teams that aren't happy. So I think that's added a lot of pressure on everything. Like you said, that after 10 games, we're talking about changes with coaches and maybe even trading players. And it just seems to be getting worse with time and with the addition of teams coming in the league.
Yeah, Claude, you've been in these major markets and felt a lot of the pressure at times. How much does the pressure of media noise get to you? How much does it affect your coaching? Are you aware of it, Drew? While it's going on, I'm just trying to put myself in the shoes of what that experience must be like.
Well, first of all, I think you know what you're getting into, whether it's a Sheldon in Toronto or others in those big markets. You know what you're getting into. I think the biggest thing is how do you handle it individually? And I know for my case in Montreal, the thing that I did is I just kind of did what I had to do with the media, because obviously they have a job to do. It's important that you answer questions, you give them, something that they can talk about or write about. I think that's part of a coach's job. But at the same time, I don't think you have an obligation to read and to try and follow up on what's being said. And I think that's the best way to kind of stay, I guess, sane in this kind of market and that kind of a job, is by just making sure you stay in your own little bubble and you try and stay away from that, because it's out there. There's no doubt about it. How curious you are to see what's being said, that's your choice. And I think sometimes that choice can be a dangerous one. And there's enough pressure as it is. You don't want to be influenced by what's being said on the outside, but you want to make sure that what you're talking about and the solutions you're looking for are based on what's going on the inside of your organization. So I think that's one of the key points in the big markets is trying to avoid getting caught up in that.
Justin just talked about it, that there are markets south of the border, and then there's markets like Toronto and Montreal where they can take whatever you say on any given day or any given night and make whatever they want out of it. And last week we saw Sheldon Keefe make comments about his elite players not being difference makers, and it just ran like wildfire here, Claude. And I'm sure you're aware of it or heard about it. I mean, how often did you sit in a place like Montreal and wonder, what am I going to say? How am I going to say it? Do I need to be careful? How emotional do I want to be? Do I want to go there or do not want to go there? Did that constantly go through your mind, or is the slate clean until you hit that podium?
No, 100%, Nick, on your comment there. It is something, do prepare for. You have an idea of what they're going to ask. You kind of know where they're going with that, and that's why you have people working with your organization, your PR guys, that kind of get the pulse of what is going on out there. But you do have to be prepared and know what you're going to say ahead of time. You just can't go there and kind of ad lib as you're going along. I think it's important, and that's being honest. You have to be ready for those kind of questions, and at the same time, you got to know that whatever your answer is going to have an impact on what they're going to write. So, you get to choose how you want to answer that and how much you want to give them. And that may be something that as a coach, you're able to control a little bit, is how much you give them. But, at the same time, it's keeping that balance. And I've always said that, is that balance between understanding that the media is there to, promote the game. They're going to critique and they're going to second guess and all that stuff, but they're the ones that are promoting our game out there. And you have to give them something that they can write about. And sometimes it's not what you'd like them to write about, but you can put it in a way where you kind of, diminish the type of damage it would do, depending on how you answered it. And I think this is where you really have to be careful. You got to be good at it. You have to be experienced at those kind of things where you understand, the surroundings and what they're going to do and how they're going to take your comment and run with it.
Claude, one of the things that we've been talking about here in the wake of Sheldon and his elite players having some pseudo drama is when that happens. Like Cooper and Kucherov had it, Bednar and McKinnon. Did you have any instances of squabbling with star players, and how did those play out?
Well, you know what, guys? I'm not trying to sound like it's never happened. I'm sure it has. It doesn't seem to. Nothing is sticking out in my mind. Like, I got to go back to where I spent most of my coaching career in Boston, and we had some great leaderships with the Sheras and Bergerons and stuff like that. And it was, I don't ever recall getting into any kind of heated arguments or head-to-head things that made the news. But there was conversations, behind closed doors. Sometimes players would come and ask about certain situations, and it was handled more that way than it was publicly. And I don't know how to answer that question, because I think at the end of the day, it will happen. It's happened with some players, and sometimes it's not even impact players, but it will happen. And now that we're talking about it a little bit, what comes to mind and just came back to me was, remember Scott Gomez, when I was in New Jersey. He was a really emotional player, and he would react sometimes on the bench, and then the next day he'd be knocking at your door and apologizing because he knew that his emotions got the better of him. And I think that's what you have to understand too, is people watching those games, when you see coaches and maybe players say a couple of those things, that the emotions get the better of you. And by the next day, it's either got sorted out or there's been a discussion and you move on. But just because you've moved on behind those closed doors or with your team doesn't mean that the perception out there is going to stop. It's going to continue, and they're going to speculate that things aren't going well and those kind of things. So that's stuff that you have to understand is out there, and you manage it the best you can.
When there are struggles, Claude, the easiest thing either from a fan base or from the media is to say, you can't trade 20 guys, so just change the coach. And from your perspective, where is, the thought of knowing that maybe, there's a disconnect between you and the players? Do you feel it? Do you sense it? How do you respond? Because there's a ton of pressure, no question, on Sheldon feeling it today. People saying, hey, bring in Barry Trotz. This guy can't get it done. The sense that maybe a coach has lost the room or the players won't play for him anymore. I mean, what goes through a coach's mind when that narrative starts?
Well, I guess, he's the only one who knows whether he's lost the room or not. When I say he's the only one, he's the one on the inside who knows that. We can look on the outside and we can speculate and say it seems like his players aren't responding. But, and I know that it's been talked a lot about what happened last year. Same thing, slow start, and then they picked it up. And what tells you that may not happen again, but doesn't mean it will automatically either. And that's where sometimes I hear players talking about what happened last year, and nobody said it's going to automatically happen again. So I think at the end of the day, to answer your question, coach normally has a pretty good feel if he's lost their room or not. And sometimes it's not that the players don't respond to you anymore. They've reached a point where they're so, I guess, they're discouraged. They don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And there's been times where, hey, I've been part of that same group where they make a change, they bring just in a new voice, and it's worked. But there's been times where we've seen it hasn't worked either. And I think during the COVID situation, we saw a lot of changes in a lot of teams that it didn't make much of a difference. And so I think GMs are being careful with, making that decision and making sure that they are making the right decision. At the end of the day, people can want Barry Trotz in there, but did Barry Trotz say yes to coming to Toronto? There's a lot of yes and all that stuff everywhere. So speculation's rampant. As coaches, I mentioned it earlier, you try and drown that white noise that's out around you, and you try and focus on getting your team back on track, because that's what's going to save your job, and that's what's going to get the team back on the winning track.
I got one more for you, Claude. I'm really enjoying this conversation, by the way, and thank you for being so candid with us. The term coach killer, it's often thrown around, and it's a horrible label. It's right up there with being accused of being soft, in my opinion. Do they really exist from your experience?
I think so.
Name names, Claude.
We want names.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I think so, guys. I think there's players that once they hit a certain wall where they say, screw this, nothing's working for me, and I'm packing it in. And a lot of times they can be impact players, and there's no doubt, you've heard that many times, and where guys, they can be such an impactful player if they're at their best, but when they shut her down because they're impactful players, it just gives the management, I guess, the view that they're done playing for this coach. So that's why they call them coach killers. When they quit playing and they're impactful players as an organization, and I think Nick has said it earlier, you can't fire 20 players, so you got to make a change somewhere. So that will happen, no doubt. And again, guys, when I'm saying all this stuff, I also know that when you take these kind of jobs on, that's part of it. It's part of, there's going to be a change. I always said you negotiate your contract not for when you're working, but by when you're fired. You want to make sure you're protected, right? That you have something to fall back on. But you know that you're going in there knowing that you're not going to coach 20 years in the same place. Eventually, there's going to be changes. There was some great coaches moved around this past summer that are doing well elsewhere, and that's just part of the gig. So you understand what you're getting into, and you try and make it last as long as you can. Try and get the most out of your players, and that's all you can do.
Great answer. And by the way, Barry Trotz threw his name in the hat here. You want me to check your name in here too?
Hi, Trotzy's got the head. I guess the fast track to Toronto. I think if he wants.
Hey, he's looking at you going 15. Get out of my way. I'm 3.
I'll be polite enough and let Trotzy take the lead.
Claude, thanks so much for doing this, man.
Hey, you're welcome, guys. It's a pleasure talking to you guys.
Great
Thanks
stuff.
so
Claude Julien, 15th winningest coach.
All right, so we got Trotz, Rick Tocchet, and Claude Julien.
We do.
All
just in case.
Just making headlines out here.
Just in
We're
case.
just stuffing them into headlines unwillingly.
I do, yeah. And now that I think about it, I really, we've had Claude on, talk on here.
Trotz is next. Call him.
Who we got next?
Hey, how about him? Yeah, you're darn right. Coach killers exist.
I really enjoyed that. I thought for sure he was going to be like, well, do the. And he said, no, they exist.
And impactful players.
Yes.
When they shut it down, he says, I'm just paraphrasing, but he said, if they shut it down on you, you're cooked.
I mean, this is what the cool kids today are calling quiet quitting. When you're just like, yeah, I'll go out there for my shifts. Sure. I'm paid for the next 3 years. I don't have to be good. Just I'll be out there. That's kind of the effort you get from a guy who doesn't want to play for a coach. Not saying that's happening with Toronto. This is a greater discussion of the idea of coach killers.
This is just a conversation, right?
It is, man. But have you ever played for a coach you just hated? And I'm not
We're not pointing any. I was never in a position to hate a coach.
Of course you were.
No.
You scored 60 times one year.
I was in a position to say
60 in the old, baby.
I just hope when you fill out the roster and the lineup, I'm on it. Okay? Big boys can hate their coach. They can have disagreements with them. I'm just wanted to be in the lineup and give me a chance. As my buddy Mark Hartman said, give me a chance. No, I was not. Could I have an opinion of somebody? Yes. Were there things that a guy like Keenan would say to others or including me and challenge me?
And you're like, F you.
And yes. But like, where would that emotion of hating a coach get me anyways? It's just it's a wasted emotion for me. I'm just a small little piece of salt on a big table right now.
That's a vast amount of humility for someone with your resume. I will say there's times where I felt that my coach maybe was in over his head, didn't know what he's doing. The team is having players meetings going, listen, no one wants to hear from this guy. But we have other reasons to, play well.
And if you're sitting at the dinner table and you've got, a Mark Messier or Brian Leach, they dictate that conversation.
Sure, and in this case, I could think it was a captain of the team who wanted to have that talk.
And then you could chime in and say, I don't agree with him going after Sergei Zubov.
Yeah.
Or what's he doing to Leachy? What's he saying that for? That's ridiculous. Like, you can have those opinions, but you're not a game changer in the grand scheme of things. So you just kind of sit there and stay in your lane.
Yeah. Curious to know, when your coach says what he says and he leaves the room, do the boys look around and go, give the head on this guy?
Are they in an Uber?
Well,
talking about their coaches in an Uber?
Yeah.
That's what you got to wonder.
You can lose faith in the program, in the structure, in the system. That can happen. And it's a challenge right now for Sheldon. And we've said it before on this show. I don't think Sheldon sending out Kerfoot and Willie Nylander on an offensive zone faceoff and saying, boys, cheat and go for the game-winning goal.
Of course not.
So where's the disconnect between what Sheldon's telling them and what you're seeing on the ice? That's a conversation for Brendan and Kyle to have with Sheldon or anyone else in the organization they value.
What's great for the show today is we haven't talked to Sheldon yet today. We haven't heard from him at all. Fortunately, he did speak. And the greatest producer of all time, Sam McKee, was able to grab some clips for us there, chum.
Right. I'm just a Samsonov, buddy.
Just filling in. Why don't we hear from Sheldon and just get an overview on the start of the year?
Well, it is surprising. I mean, the expectations that I had for the team, and I think everybody has for themselves, is a lot higher than what we've performed like to date. That said, it is 10 games, and we have lots of hockey left to play. So let's just focus on tomorrow.
Oh boy, we couldn't state the obvious more than that. I don't blame him. It's like don't get caught. He's in a defensive mode right now. Everything he says right now is getting dissected.
Yeah, that's what we do.
So I'm not going anywhere, boys. I'm gonna not the start we were looking for. Tomorrow's a new day.
But he had the option to say that, what are we doing? We got to get our heads out of our collective ass here.
No,
what do we?
No,
yeah,
no,
sure he did.
No. That's a mistake.
The other
that's a mistake.
To go out and say that this is a problem that everyone else sees, but we don't.
Don't need to act like you're at the end of your rope.
Yeah.
Okay. Calm everything down. Tomorrow's a new day. You guys
Chamomile
go on the
eucalyptus.
real Kyper and Bourne Sammy show and beat it up.
Yeah.
We're just going to go back to work.
Oh yeah.
That's the message that he needed to send, and that's what you got out of that clip.
This other one's very interesting. needing to play better? Because there's something that he says in there that's actually, gives us a little bit of fodder if you want to play it now.
We do.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of areas in our game that we can improve upon. In fact, I think when you talk about our start and the results or whatever that we've had, I think the points that we've been able to accumulate to this point, probably are even more so. More than what I would expect based on how we've played, frankly. And that speaks to the ability and talent that we have as a group. So my focus solely is just to get our team to play better. I think an area that we can improve on the most is how connected we are and how we execute as a group coming out of our zone and getting through the neutral zone and then just getting on the attack from there. I thought we were well on our way to that in Anaheim. Just in terms of our play with the puck in our first period, especially the last 10 minutes, was really representative of what I think we could look like. We weren't able to sustain that, but that's certainly where we want to get to tomorrow.
Where do you want to start there?
I want to start with the actual system, structure, the way they play. And he said that one area we can improve on is connectedness and getting the puck out of our D zone. I sent a couple of messages around to find out about this Pontus Holmberg and how he's looked. And he has 2 assists in 7 games for the Marlies. Like, not going to come in here and.
Can he stand on the right side of the puck?
Yes. So that's what the messages I got back. They said that a centerman who supports the puck really well from the middle of the ice, helps the breakout in all facets. They clearly just want to not play in their end. And I guess they think Holmberg can do that.
Good. I'm looking
You're fine with that?
I'm looking forward to his playing him.
Him taking a pass at the hash marks. And
don't care.
Okay.
Don't care. If I'm Sheldon Wednesday, I don't care if we need to play this game and win 1-0 or 2-1.
Yeah.
But if I see you, Justin Hall, go into the offensive zone, I'm going to zap you with this new collar.
Yeah.
I'm putting on your neck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the
That's
whole
it.
thing about activating the D and getting the D involved, we might be good on that. They got 1 goal from their D.
Try to win a 2-1 score.
Yeah.
Hey, we don't have
Well,
to
you better win 2-1 because he can't score.
We don't have to go for it every which way.
Let's see where the Leafs are.
And that is when it's not rolling, when you're not feeling it, just play it on the right side of the puck. That's all.
Yep. And I think that's what Holmberg will do. He had a nice camp for them. So Pontus Holmberg.
That to me is a smart move.
Okay. Well, I guess that's what they're looking for. Yeah, we have one on Pontus.
Yeah,
I didn't even know that.
Old Keefe's got a little his own scouting report.
I hope
Skeldon?
I
What am I talking
I
about?
don't know, who cares? I hope I didn't step all over him here. Let's see.
Yeah.
Sure. Pontus guy, we were really excited about the camp that he had. Obviously the numbers and the cap and things, didn't have space for him coming in and wanted to try some different guys in the middle. But we've obviously tried different people throughout that road trip playing center ice. We like the idea of having a natural center coming in, and he had a really good camp for us. We like a lot of things about him, and he's gone down to the Marlies and all reports are he's been excellent for them there. Not a guy that scores at a high rate, but does a lot of really good things that contribute to winning, so we're happy to have him.
Not a guy that scores at a high rate.
23 years old, 6 feet tall and 200 pounds. A left shot. All right. That's all I got for you. Anyway, that's the guy coming in for the Leafs. I'm afraid to listen to the last clip because I feel like we've done this.
Well, we beat it up, but it's worth listening.
Mark. Okay. We're gonna listen.
We want to hear what he has to say on benching Marner.
All right.
And we have not heard it.
Nope.
Right?
Nope.
Okay, hold on. Let's play. Guess what you're gonna hear.
Oh, I like that.
Okay, what is he gonna say?
I think he's gonna say that sometimes you just have to show that everyone is personally accountable, and that even means our best guys and something like that.
Yes.
You think so?
Yeah.
Same.
Okay, play it.
Okay, there's just one. Okay. Hold on. Before we play it.
What?
There's just one part of this clip that's so funny. I can't wait for you guys to hear it. Please go ahead.
Well, I think, as a coach, you make a lot of decisions as you go through the game, and sometimes you're trying to send a message to the player. Sometimes you're trying to send a message to the entire team. Each situation is different. I thought at that time, we would just, I was already looking for a way to get Dennis Maligan a little extra shift here and there, and that was an easy way to let Mitch have some time to kind of process things and knowing that full well you're going to get him right back to it. But I mean, these decisions are made all the time with a lot of our players. Not the first time for Mitch, and really not a big deal.
Not a big deal.
I had to get it cut.
Oh my God!
Well, you didn't have trying to get Malgin some time in the bingo card.
Remember road hockey when you pick teams and Albert's the last guy. Albert's the last guy.
I was always first up the board, boys. First
Sheldon picked Albert. You've been Malgin right out of the league. He picked Albert over Mitch Marner. First team All-Star.
It is really funny that he's like, he was looking to get Malgin another shift. It's like, leave that part out.
He saved that one.
Keep that in the old
And
holster.
the other thing I take
of all the weapons to pull out.
take some offense in him saying that he doesn't do it ever. He's like, we do this to a lot of our players. No, you don't.
I did.
You do it to your fourth line guys. You play
right.
6 a night.
He said he's trying to send a message to the whole team.
What big boy has he benched?
Willie, like once
Willie,
or twice?
He's benched Willie a ton.
Not that often. I would set the over-under at 2.5.
But Olensi boy got sat this year.
You know who's not easy?
Marner and Matthews.
And Morgan. Pajama boy.
Well, Morgan, because you don't have any other hockey players at that position.
Yeah.
Right?
But Malgin.
When you bench Matthews, now you're showing me something. Now we're willing to go there.
I would have been fully on board.
I would be too.
1 point at even strength.
I would really like them to bench Matthew because I think Malgin needs a couple more looks.
Yeah, we got
get 6'2" and White over the board. See what he can do for us.
We're down a couple.
I can't believe you said that.
So
I honestly was cutting the clip back here. I was like, I can't wait for them to hear that. He did score a nice goal.
Did someone get into Matthew's grill about representing a gambling site?
Yeah.
Do you have that clip?
We do have that clip.
All right.
Here.
Austin, can I ask you a question that's not about the road trip? I'm
here all day, I guess.
I'm with the Fifth Estate at the CBC.
All righty.
Can you explain why you chose to make this deal with Bet99?
I appreciate the question, but after all that, I don't think I'm going to get into it much, honestly. So if you guys got any more hockey-related questions, then...
They hired you to be an ambassador for the brand. I just wanted to give you the opportunity.
Yeah. Like I said, I mean, I've already kind of answered this question before, and there's just, a lot of hockey questions and stuff, so I kind of just like to keep on that, if that's okay, and if not, we can just move forward.
I think he handled it really well for a guy that says, I'm not going there, I'm not going there.
I honestly don't think he could have handled that better.
But it gives you some sense of a guy like Austin who did not grow up here like a Mitch Marner who knows what the market's all about. Like that sort of stuff, I'm thinking he's thinking to himself, what is wrong with you people? Like we're playing hockey here.
All righty.
Just
that's a great draw. It is.
I mean, that's the stuff that probably drives him nuts.
That extra stuff. Yeah. Would it have been better for you if he said it's legal and they pay me well?
No. I think he handled it.
No.
Yeah?
You can't say that. Yeah, I can't say that.
That's like saying Malgin. We want to get Malgin a couple more shifts. I don't know what to
worse. He handled it as well as you can, but here we've been talking all show about the pylon, and this is just like a cherry and whipped cream on a crap Sunday right now that they're
just
eating.
Like now I got to watch a report come out or a documentary on this in
Fifth
3 weeks.
Well, he's like, all righty.
Like that.
Oh my God, what's next? 60 Minutes?
Be like the camera work in the Gummy DeMaio, is it from Simpsons with Homer? They're going to frame Austin Matthews like not answering the question. Be like, Matthews.
Oh, yeah.
Wants your kids to gamble.
Yeah.
It's hot down there. Warm, at least practice.
What other market would...
Montreal,
maybe. Yeah.
Maybe Edmonton.
Maybe.
I mean, last time I checked, the captain out there is doing a lot of gambling commercials too.
Yeah, but I'm just saying in general, like here he is, he's inundated with, everybody scrutinizing everything. And And then on top of that, that comes out of left field and a room full of people that he's dying to get away from.
And listen, like it was a little contentious before that. You know, like Steve Simmons asked him a question and they've had history, say what you will about it, but he's, you know, he asked him if he was surprised about the start of the year and he kind of had he's like, I don't know, Steve, how to answer that. And he's feeling it. And I don't know how you couldn't. He's a human being. But
I'm here all day, I guess.
Like,
just cutting clips while they're on.
I think he's handling it really well. I do. Like the way he speaks to
I don't know what else you want from the guy.
I think it's
the professionalism that he's handling it with is
in
impressive.
terms of staying in the moment and just getting out of it. Yes, how he's handling it will be dictated on what we see on the ice for the next 2 weeks.
Best thing that was it Recchi or Julien said that the best way to lead when you're not a vocal leader is go be the best player. Go be Patrice Bergeron.
Yeah.
You know, go be Chara. Just you don't have to stand up and yodel. Just go play the best hockey.
If we see Austin 2 weeks from now play like the last 2 weeks, then we're gonna all sit here collectively and say he's not handling this thing well.
I say this for 2 weeks. He's going to be healthy scratch.
Oh my gosh! Stop that,
okay,
would you?
Benched then.
We almost have. We got 8 minutes before the show's over. Let Sammy.
I know.
And
finish
we got Matt,
other news
and just a little Matt Murray update too.
Okay.
I didn't cut the clip because it's not that.
Is he skating?
He skated today, progressing well. Part of his plan today was the day that he was scheduled, so he has met and stayed on that schedule. And from that end of it, I think he's doing well.
Whew.
Yeah.
How exciting!
Yeah, thank God.
Do we have
do you want to do news and notes?
Mrazek update at all? He was hurt too.
His groin is a spaghetti squash that's been baked. All right.
Any interest in little Sabres talk or no?
Yes.
We'll start there.
Tage.
The greatest player in the league, Tage
Thompson.
You guys watch those highlights? Watch the game. I didn't see the game. But I watched the highlights.
It was Mario-esque.
Guy is dominating.
Oh, the show can relax.
No, he
on
is.
Tage
No.
Thompson.
Hey, you're Mr. Analytics. You're Mr. Analytics.
No.
Go look at his expected goals for. Like he was at 65% Corsi last night. Like he kicked the crap out of the Red Wings last night. The guy is dominating.
The other thing too is like I'm thinking he's 6'3".
No,
he's
you're
like
not.
6'6".
That's why you like him.
6'7".
He's
growing as I
he's currently
talk about
6'8"
him.
now that towards the end of the show. He's a giant. He's an absolute giant. Yeah.
How do you move like that?
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
He's cutting in and cutting out.
Sammy's 6'6". You tell us, Sammy.
Did you see? Oh, I don't. Hey, guess what? Don't have the same quick twitch muscles at old Stage. But did you see the reaction from Dahlin when he cut it back to the middle and put it by the goalie? Dahlin literally put his hands on his head when he went skating towards
Did the
him.
Sonny Milano?
Yeah, he was like, "Oh
Zegras?
my god, what a goal!" So.
Yeah.
If the Leafs don't turn this around, this guy's going to be producing a sports show
I gotta
for
tell
WGR.
Yeah,
in
550.
Buffalo.
I'm going to give my boy Nate Geary a call. We're going to do Sabres talk.
Tonawanda Radio.
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm telling you, our chat for the YouTube thing is like, we've lost Sammy to the Sabres. Like, this is rock bottom.
And Bunkus and I, too, because his boy is Dylan Cousins, the Yukon guy connection. Like, we're both thinking about going to Orchard Park. So
you guys go have the Sabres. You go root for the Sabres.
I'm sorry.
These Leafies are going to be just fine.
Yeah, they'll be fine. They're not Tage Thompson,
Divisional team. Yeah, they're not Tage Thompson. Ottawa Senators, apparently for sale.
Yeah, it's official.
That is official.
I think so, yeah.
So that means the Melnick daughters will collect half of the sale price of $700 million more, $800 million.
I don't know. If I was the oldest, I'd say I got seniority. I'd get the majority of it.
Would you?
Yeah, I'd call.
You'd grind for the extra $20 million.
Little succession situation.
Yeah.
I just lack that killer
Scram
instinct.
beat it.
I get 500, you get 300. See ya.
And the sense, pardon the pun, the sense is
the Sensitors
that minimum $800 million.
Wow. I think that's completely reasonable given the estimation of franchises in the league. Is it an average about $1 billion?
$1 billion. I think the Leafs. What did we say?
Well,
the Leafs
Sportico literally just put out an article about the valuation, so I could see what they had on their thing. But yeah, the Leafs.
I think it was 685 is what they had on Ottawa, if I recall.
Okay, I'll look that up as you guys talk. But
still, you don't sell it for the value. You sell it for you want to buy this right now. It's tough to get a pro sports team, a little premium on top. And there's the idea that if they move, they could be worth considerably more, whether that be LeBreton or...
It has to be LeBreton Flats.
LeBreton, yeah.
Without a doubt. And it would have to be a complete real estate play.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go in there and you got to have the ability to develop around the area. I mean, sports is sports, but you're going to pay $1 billion. It's going to take a while to collect that back.
Yeah. Yeah, this is not a quick turnaround on an investment like that.
But I would think that this is it's going to be very popular here. It's going to be interesting to see how long the process goes, how many groups throw their name in the hat. How much of a market does Gary want to create? Will he go
Is it important that it's Ottawa based? Would that matter? Like the money? Like, could it be money from anywhere, or is it important that the investors be Ottawa people?
They're seldom local people.
Yeah.
Seldom.
Do you, I mean, I don't want to say this, but could they move?
You know, everything, no.
Based on what we've seen out of Gary and...
he'd be dying to get him out of Canada. It's like, can I take him to Houston? Well, no one will go.
Well, we said, in Gary's, where does he move teams? He keeps them.
Except the Canadian ones.
Houston Senators sounds very American, actually. Yeah. No.
So, no, it's not. I don't think you need to. It's a great market if you can go back downtown.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Does New Mexico need a team?
It's where Gary, where's the warmest place on earth?
Yeah, so according to Sportico, they had him at $655 million.
$655.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. But I think it's, I think based on the feeling that these organizations on average are $1 billion, you go after the billion.
So, like, what is that?
Man, so much riding on it as a fan for who buys it.
Yeah,
in terms
it does
of
change everything.
In terms of the way you spend, if it's a corporation, if it's a single person, if it's like so much rides on it.
Scott Malkin and John Ledecky, love you.
Yeah,
there
it's been
is
a blessing.
No coincidence though in the last 6 months that they went out and they tied in all these assets.
100%, Kip.
And then they put the for sale sign up. Smart move.
Yeah, it is a smart move.
Because if I'm going
all
in
of a sudden
there,
there's interest. They're saying, look, there's interest if you're good. People will care.
And you have assets now.
Mm-hmm.
You have, $1 million players.
Yeah.
That are worth something. That's why I get to charge you $800 million right now, or $850.
Yeah. You imagine being one of those girls though, and like you're about to inherit $400 million, or like whether it's 385 or 420.
Yeah,
like,
but after tax, it's probably about 250.
Yeah, right.
220.
Right. Yeah. But can you imagine what that's like? Like, what do you want to do with the rest of your life now that money doesn't matter?
Think about that new
sports
rivalry in Ontario too. Like you get somebody in there that just take it to another level.
Oh man, it'd be good.
Just moving to Markham, be really good.
Best chance for success.
Yeah, good games tonight on the television.
What do we got?
Pittsburgh,
Bruins, Penguins,
and Boston. I like Ottawa. Tampa's a good game these days. I hate watching my Oilers. So Jack Campbell between the pipes tonight, guys. Big night for him. Got to win his job back.
Soupy.
All right. Good show today. Our thanks to Luke Fox for providing wonderful entertainment on his article on sportsnet.ca.
It's like a baseball opener now. We just bring him in to throw fastballs out of the gate.
Hall of Famer Mark Recchi and the 15th winningest coach in NHL history, Claude Julien, also a guest today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Give us a rating and review on Apple, Spotify, iTunes. Give us a thumbs up on YouTube, too. We love that as well. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We're back tomorrow.